Welcome in, everyone. This is our weekly flow recap for the week of October 7th to October 11th, 2024. We had a little shorter week, and we had a lot of flow overlapping quarter 3 earnings that are coming up. Not a big fan of playing earnings just because earnings are a total gamble. You have IV crush, a lot of factors go into earnings, and a lot of that flow can be hedging, a lot of that going on. So a little shorter review this week. And as always, I like to start out for those who aren't following or in the group. As always, I like to post the flow in here. Flow comes in real time. I don't edit anything. Everything's just in here as it comes in. So let's get started here. So again, like I said, a little shorter video than the other ones, and a lot of bullish flow this week too. So let's get started here. So first up, we're starting on October 7th, so Monday. We had 10, 11, 125 BABA calls, and bumping this back here. So this is a good example. I'm going to actually change this to the 7th so we can just look at the daily here. So here is our 7th. And to me, this whale probably closed same day for a loss, and this is why it's important to always have volume alerts on if you don't have unusual whales and you can't monitor the flow. I like to set alerts in my broker to allow me to see when a large amount of contracts are traded. So we had this whale open about 6,600 contracts on BABA here. So again, looking at the 7th, we had a lot of volume intraday here. We had some volume come in here towards the end of the day, and we had about 4,000 there, followed by about 1,700 there, giving us about 6,000. And if you visually look at this too, if you just kind of place this candle up here, you can assume this is the same person, and this is why not all ask side and bid side flow is a buy and sell. So here's our entry. It looks like this whale entered at 2 for an average, and they cut at about 162 for an average, 167, 159. We'll say 162. So they cut for about a 19% loss. And this is why I say you should always have a stop loss on no matter what, because these whales are people too, and they're not going to be 100% accurate all the time. Have to be smart and manage your risk. So looking here at 10/7, can see we had 23,000 total contracts traded that day. We only had 12,000 of those carry over. So to me, this is telling me this whale exited same day for a smaller loss. And I do want to take a peek at the flow here too, because this was a block trade. So these are a little tougher to read just because you don't have that full amount of raw flow where you can see if that IV is increasing and that spot's increasing. We'll have some examples of that coming up. So this was just kind of a block trade, but we were seeing a lot of bullish flow on China. So I like that it's time, but this would be a cut for a 19% loss by this whale. So backing out here. So DQ, again, on the 10/18/30 call here. So they filled at about 110, and this was from the 7th. I want to back this out to the 7th again. Bump this back to 1 day. So again, another one that looks like they may have exited same day. So again, having volume alerts is really helpful. But this whale entered these at 105. These ran instantly all the way up to a high of, where are we? So 150 here on the day. So these hitting 150, that's hitting 150 here. Doing a little math for everybody. So about 36% on these. And it looks like this whale exited at maybe about a 5% loss. Could have exited here at about 139, 114 for some profits here. But again, very quick spike. When I see profits, I like to adjust stops up. If your broker has trailing stops, I highly suggest using trailing stops. But these contracts did run from the entry called out from 105 up to 150. So that was a max return, and we're going to go with the max return on these of 36.36%. So looking at that, we are going to move on here. Actually, I want to look at the flow here. I'm going to try to dive into the raw flow on everything. So again, we can see a lot of that volume here. One thing I see is that flow alert coming in. We have repeated hits, ascending fill. So ascending fill, that's just telling you that spot price is increasing as the contracts come in. Looking at these here too, you can see a little wider bid ask, more skewed towards that ask side. These are more than likely a buy, and with that IV increase, those check my boxes. So again, those hit that 35%. So moving on here, we have Upstart next. These expired today. These were the 10/11/43 calls, and this one, another good one, but this is where the flow tends to get kind of messy sometimes. So we had 4,000 contracts traded on the 7th, and I want to dive back to the 7th first. So here's your 7th, and these came in at 105 for an average, and these ran up very quickly again to 134 and then kind of crashed back down. We see a lot of volume here, about 300 candles each. I mean, probably good volume in here. So, and you can see that first entry was about 1,000. So kind of just looking over here, I always look at that candle volume. You're getting close to that 1,000 here. And again, can see we had 4,100 contracts traded intraday on the 7th, only 192 carrying over. This whale closed these intraday for more than likely a gain. And with weeklies, you have a theta, which is a lot, which is really aggressive and will eat contracts away. So not a bad idea to secure profits there. But this whale did end up missing out on a big move because bumping this back. So this was our initial whale entry here on the 7th. These hit a high of 429 today, actually. So again, this is where the flow starts to get kind of messy. We could tell on that 7th, though, this whale didn't carry him over. But again, anybody that may have chased and swung in today, I mean, these ran all the way up to 429, which would give us a max return. And again, you're not expected to do that. I just like to show the full range of the trade. But these hitting 105 to 429, that's 308.57%. That is a massive gain intra-week. And again, not expecting anybody to kind of move. I mean, these were sitting up about 50% for majority of the week because here again, your entry at 109. Can see we're sitting about that 138, 125-ish. And you can see that average in here as well, too. So, again, max return on this. And actually, I want to, again, take a peek at the raw flow. So this one, gonna come back to, I believe this is, that's our 4th. And sometimes the older flow that expires doesn't always like to cooperate here. But let's, I'm on the 11th, that's why. Let's go back to the 7th. So again, here's our flow. 800 contracts, so it's going to be more of a block trade here. So again, not a super good example, but let's take a peek at this one. So again, yeah, it comes in as a flow alert, repeated hits. You can see that 88.50, one spot. Moving on to the next big entry here. 88, coming up a little bit here, and that spot increasing. There's all your volume. So again, more of a block trade again here. So moving on now. So we have XPEV, another China one, and this is on the 11/15/13 call. So this longer term flow sometimes won't make an intra-week move. I like to kind of do these videos intra-week for those that are just kind of joining. But let's take a peek anyways. So again, from the 7th, this whale, here's your first entry. And again, this is why I always like adjusting up stops. Here is about 5,300 contracts traded here at 168, 174, I believe was their entry. These run all the way up to a max of 212 on the day. Those ran for about 21.84%. And then the next day we had China news with their prime minister or whoever it was talking about they weren't going to be as aggressive on cutting their rates. So we had kind of a gap down on China. So these are, looks like this whale for the most part still in, sitting at about 148 right now. Their entry was 168. I know there's news with China. They're having a presser over the weekend coming up, so could be holding for that. But again, these hitting about 21% for a max return for the week, 174 to 212. Again, looking at the flow. So again, here you perfect example here. We have repeated hits descending fill, which would just mean that spot fill's kind of going down, but you could have one contract come in a little bit lower at the bid. It's going to give you that alert. This is why I like to look at the full flow. But again, looking at that IV's increasing all the way up. This is a sign of a buy. We're being filled at that ask with good size, good premium. To me, this is a buy. And you can always look at that net premium too. And I mean, you look at the last 7 days of China flow. Let's do 14 days. XPEV doesn't get a lot of option activity, but we had a big spike in that net call premium. Bid side there, more there. Not seeing a lot of put activity, so really interesting here. So those did run same day, 174 to 212, 21.84%. So one of our better trades this week coming up. So on the 8th, we had Uber calls come in, and these came in as a bunch of we had a bunch of those calls coming in. Let me pull it up here. I want to show everybody how that one came in. Let's see. Come over here. Let's find our Uber. Uber. So here we go. This is how our Uber came in. A lot of hits immediately. To me, this is very, very unusual. Same sizing, heavy premium, a lot of spot pricing, a floor trade mixed in there. This is very unusual to me, and that sticks out. So here is your whale entry, about 6,900 contracts traded on that. These ran from 262 and they hit a high of 1030 today. These hit 340.17%, and it looks like a lot of these, a large chunk of this is still in. Looks like they probably took off, but oh no, they probably took off their full position here. They probably took off the full position. Only way to check would see that open interest in the morning. Monday morning. I'm going to take a guess that they exited these at the ask. So 5,100 plus another 1,100, so 6,200. We might only see about 500 or so contracts left here. Well, that would be a good chance. Otherwise, they may have bought more contracts, but we will see. But these contracts, again, running 234 to 1030 today. And let's take a peek at the flow. So again, when this came in, so here's how the raw flow looked when it came in. So you have that first big chunk of them coming in. You see a small drop in that IV, which if this was just that one trade coming in, I would probably avoid this. But we have more coming in here. We see that spike in IV there. Again, that spot price increasing. We see that IV drop again. But again, repeated hits ascending fill. We're seeing that fill come up. Again, fill, that spot price is increasing on a bigger bid-ask spread. and we can see that IV increase here. So this again is why I like to look at that full raw data, especially on big trades like this. Again, we're being filled at the ask. This whale was buying these contracts. Obviously, hindsight's going to be 2020, but these hitting that 340%. Moving on here, we have DVA next. These were the 10, 18, 155 puts. So again, another one that kind of moved pretty quick, and again, looks like a same-day exit. So we had 1,100 contracts traded here at 228, 230. And we see these candles come in right after, about 162 there. So about 300 there and about 500 there. So you get about 800. You're getting very close to that initial entry there. And again, these did run instantly. 228 spiked all the way up to 392. And looks like this whale may have exited about 314, 325. Contracts hit 70.43%, 230 to 392. And again, it's always can... Well, looks like it hit a little higher there, but it's only showing that 392 here, so we'll go with that. But looking at this here, again, looking at the flow, before that whale came in, you can see those contracts start coming in here, dropping that IV, but again, that is, you're on a wider bid ask, and sometimes I'll let the drop in the IV kind of, I pass that over if I'm seeing a bigger fill on that bid ask that's showing aggression. If you're hitting that ask on a big spread like that with good volume and premium, you're more than likely buying those. So again, that IV does jump back up here a little bit, and again, still kind of being filled towards that ask, not right at the ask there, but again, skewed to that ask side. Coming in as sweeps as well, and we can see that was a very quick run there. And also when this came in, you look at that net put premium, bearish, bearish, bearish. These are ask side puts, a lot of flat, not seeing call activity. So again, kind of time in the market using unusual whales. This does help a lot. All right. Next up, we had, again, another very interesting trade that came in. We had NVDA calls come in, and I want to pull this for everybody. So we did have more come in after this, but majority, I mean a huge amount, actually, I did this, charted this out for everybody yesterday. These were our hottest contracts for yesterday. All NVIDIA, all on that 321 expiration, multiple different strikes, heavy premium, heavy sizing. This is a very unusual whale that was coming in. And looking at these, I just picked the 136. Oh, this is, okay. Sorry, excuse, this was a different NVIDIA we had. This was the big NVIDIA yesterday. We had another NVIDIA this week come in too as well. So this one came in on the 8th. So let me get ahead of myself there because that was a very interesting whale. So again, here's your entry on the 8th. These came in at 231, not 221 or 234. We'll go with that average. These ran intraday all the way up to 288. They hit a high of 325 on the 9th. About 40.69% on those. So again, here's your whale entry. Took some profits off there. And again, looking at the flow, can see before that the whale starts to come in, jump in IV when he comes in, spot fill all the way up, spot price is increasing, can see it turn to repeated hits, ascending fill, that IV is increasing, signs of a buy. We have some more coming in after that, some more repeated hits, some ask side fills. So again, these running 231 up to 325, 40.69%. Our first hit at NVDA of the week. Next we had GLW 122048 calls. So again, here is our entry. 185 on these actually. I'm going with the actual entry that came in here. So sometimes this might show a little different just because whales are coming in at different times. But again, 170, these hitting a high of 235 same day. So 235. Got these hitting about 27% same day. Contracts would still be up right now. 197 from that 170 entry. And again, looking at all this volume, we had 15,000 contracts, about 10,000 carried over. Could have took some profits here. Then we just see some other little mini people coming in here because we didn't have that full amount carryover. But contracts should still be up if you're still holding those. And again, looking at the raw flow. Let's see. Bump my results down. So again, before the flow comes in, spike in IV, seeing that ask side fill, that spot's being filled with the ask. And again, this is what I was talking about. You see that descending fill here. You have that one, and it's not a large amount of contracts. You have 5 contracts come in 1 penny below the ask. They consider that descending fill. Even though it's 0.01 away from the ask, that's why you always need to digest the overall flow, because something like this is still bullish to me because you're on that ask side skew. And it's not a huge chunk of these. Now, if it was 5,000 contracts traded a little closer to the bid, then I would probably hold off on that. But moving up here again, can see that coming up here again, spread widens, being filled towards that ask side. And yeah, just coming up here, this is what I like to do for all the flow. I check it over before posting everything. And you can see that flow made a good move. So next we have SHLS, so shoals, and I believe they are I want to say they're a electric company, or they do something with, let's take a peek. I think they do something with some type of solar producer, I believe. Come back here. I can just always tell. To leading manufacturer of balance system solutions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we don't care. I don't really ever look into what they do. I'm more interested in the flow. But we had these shoals contracts come in. Go back to the camera. Here we go. Again, these running kind of quick as well from 36, hitting that high of 45 same day. Looks like they're sitting around 40 right now. Majority of these are still in. So again, 35, because you can only get this one in 0.5 increments. So 35 would have been your fill. These hit 45, that's 28%. If you got in at 0.40, you're still sitting up about 12%. But we always go with the whale fill. And it looks like we're finishing pretty good end of the week. So next up we have SMCI. Here's your initial entry here. This one hasn't fully made a move yet. These contracts are down about 6.4% from that 310 entry. And it looks like we may have had some more volume come in here on the 9th. Let's see. So the first whale, about 1,600 contracts on the 9th. Looks like we had More coming on the 10th, about 1,000. Majority of those, yeah, it looks like that whale could have averaged down here a little bit. Averaged down from that 309 to 215. Got some there. And yeah, contracts down about 6.5%. Little longer term flow here, another 14 days on these. Next up, now we have the good NVDA trade here that came in. So these were the hottest contracts, ones that I was showing. So again, these making a nice little intraday move. They're sitting up about 10% or so. So these ones ran 845 and they hit a high of 940 today. So they're sitting up about 11%. That whale had a lot of premium on here, so keep that in mind. 11% to that whale with that premium's pretty massive, but again, a lot of time on these. Would assume this whale is looking at the longer term view on here. Let's take a peek here. So again, that IV, and with all the flow coming in on this one too, you're not going to look at every single strike. You see all those strikes and you're going to think, hey, this is very unusual. And I'm not a huge fan of playing contracts that far out. You have to go over multiple earnings. Maybe this whale knows something. Who knows? You never know. But again, seeing that IV here, IV stays up for a majority of it. All ask side fills, heavy premium, heavy size, very unusual. So contracts sitting up about 11% right now. So Palantir next. And we had on the 10th these 417.60 calls again further out. Can see a majority of that volume carrying over. We had a lot of bid side volume here at open at about 288. So it looks like this whale may have took some profits, but these did hit 296, 297. Contracts only hit about 8%. I personally like at least 20%. I will still adjust stops up. If I hit 10%, I have a stop on it break even. I see it hit 15%, I start to trail that stop up and keep moving up to secure profits. If you're up 20% and you don't see a whale exit, doesn't mean that you shouldn't exit. You should be securing profits, because sometimes these whales let these contracts go to zero. We don't know why, but you should always be securing profits and managing your own risk. But we have this bid side candle here. We'll see how much of that carries over into Monday. And this tan came in today. Not a lot coming in today. Again, kind of sitting break even-ish. Not a lot going on with this one yet. 70 days on these. But that is our flow cap for the week. If you don't have unusual whales, I do have a discount code, which I will leave in the description at the bottom of the video. If you're interested in joining Stock Hub, I will also leave that link here. We also do pop it up here. I do like to chart out the hottest contracts. I will always look at the hottest contracts for the day. I pick my favorite one. These would be my trades. So those that have seen the overview video, this is essentially my trades. These are my favorite setups for the week. And I do need to actually track these a little better. Because like AMD, we had a perfect rejection at that line from that AMD. We had a big put. Yeah, other than that, that is all I have for this week. Everybody have a fantastic weekend.